Hi there maple fans, and in this series of videos I'll be sharing what I do throughout an entire year on a monthly basis. Please note that these months are based on UK timings, but of course can easily be adapted to anywhere else in the world. So welcome to this June video. I'm sure like me, many of you have been out in April, May selecting lovely new Japanese maples to add to your collection, but a very common question on Facebook is, what's the name of this Acer? I've forgotten the name of it, it's been lost, I've inherited it, etc. But once we actually have a name in front of them, I think this is really useful, particularly when they're out of leaf or as your collection grows. It's really nice to kind of know what you bought and how it's doing and all the rest of it. Maybe your interest in the hobby grows and you want to take a bit more interest and do a bit more research on a particular cultivar that you have. So a good labelling system I think is really important to help enjoy the hobby, to be honest. So here we have a selection of labels from various nurseries, which I thought was a good starting point because they kind of want them to last. Whereas this one from a sort of generic supermarket was basically after 4 to 5 years is completely disintegrating. They've no real interest in selling me any more from Aldi, where I bought this one from. It's really just about making that initial sale. So as you know, I enjoy going out and about and looking for Japanese maples, and this is a label at Bluebell Nurseries in Ashby-de-la-Zouch in the UK. And again, it's a nice printed label. It's been around for a few years and it's doing very well. And indeed, this is from Batsford Arboretum. Looks really good, printed out, a few years old. But as you can see, the trouble is the tree is overtaking the label, so unless you really go hunting for them, it's really hard to see. So here we've got a label from Western Butt Arboretum, and that's from 1983, so it's been around for over 40 years. A little bit of discoloration there, whatever, from a bit of moss or something, but overall it looks absolutely fantastic, but expensive to produce because it's been etched and the top black layer has been removed, revealing the white underneath. So on this little tree of mine here, Carl's Corner, which will feature heavily in this video because that's my name I suppose really, but even there it's been attached to a leader, and then because it's grown on really well, it's starting to sort of disappear and get buried, and there's that chance that information could get lost actually, which is again a bit of a shame really. So I try to be honest on this channel, and these are my other kind of failed attempts, if you know what I mean. So these are just little bamboo stakes. I've got an indelible marker, well supposedly indelible marker, and written on them, but left out in the weather under all conditions, heat, sun, rain obviously. They do weather an awful lot, and then they look a bit tatty, and I'm left kind of handwriting more information back over the top of them to kind of make them last another year. But never really been pleased with this, to be honest. Again, just focusing on the sort of nursery labels, top one absolutely fine and kind of shows that it's hand grown really, so I quite like that. You've got the printed ones there, which are definitely more substantial, and then sort of my woeful efforts kind of below that really. And it seems such a shame to spend quite a considerable amount of money in some respects, or it is to me anyway, on a nice tree and then put a bit of a rubbish label against it, I suppose. These are also bamboo ones, quite like them in a way shape-wise, and you've got a bit more room to write on them. You can indeed flip them over and use the back of them, which could be an interesting idea to put the date on there or something like that. But again, longevity-wise, a year or two maybe, and then we're having to rewrite and we're kind of in trouble really. So I suppose I was after a solution that kind of addresses all of those kind of issues, and this essentially is what I come up with. So if you watch the video to the end, I'll show you how you do this. I liked it because it was a way of displaying them in different ways. So here I've got one on a wall-mounted Japanese maple, pretty unusual, but it hangs quite nicely off the side there, and that looks okay. That one more typically is a pot, and there's plenty of room underneath this tree to display it, so you know, quite happy to leave it there really. I can also vary the font size, which is quite good, so if there's not too many letters on it, yeah, I can just make them bigger so they stand out a bit better, I suppose. And on this fella here, I mean, you can also, if the little pot is too small, you can obviously put them in the ground or whatever you're in front of it. Likewise, the little princess is truly little and very low growing, but no problem there actually having it stand into the compost and stand above the rest of it, so I can still use a label in that kind of way really. So what about the big stuff, or perhaps you know the same tree after many years when it grows? So here's a bloodgood. I think at the moment it's perfectly sensible to put the little label name tag thing there. Absolutely fine really. And I've got to say, it does look an awful lot better than the one on the right, I suppose. So if I say so myself, so a lot more pleasing to the eye, definitely. So the question is, what are these things? I haven't actually made the blanks that you probably could actually, if you so wished. But essentially, I just buy them as blanks. They're already pre-cut. There's a hole already pre-drilled. And you get these little metal spiky type things to pop through. I'm just trying to do that with one hand and sort of failing, but essentially you just put the spike in through the back and then they'll wrap around the top part and remain sort of pretty secure, really. There is a little bit of movement on the wind as well, which I don't think harms at all. But of course you have the option there of not using that later on, and then I've used a piece of string there. You could do much better than that with some proper green twine or something like that, absolutely. But they could always get hung up in that way. And just to say, if you'd like to come with me on my Acer journey, please do like and subscribe to my little channel. It really helps. I've also recently set up a Patreon site, so that's a great way of supporting me too, and help out with some of the costs of my excursions, really. There's also the offer of some personal help, if you'd like it, either in a group format or at a one-to-one basis. So as these little name tags or labels are made of slate, they should be very durable. And I just think it's a great idea that, in fact, you could, when they're very small, use them on their little metal pin, but you can always take that away and hang it from a branch later on when they get bigger. So at this point I've talked about the labels themselves, how I can get hold of them, how I can display them, but in fact there are two fundamental ways of using them. So here we have me using the provided little marker wax crayon-y type thing here, and essentially, yes, you can write on it, and then if you get a little rub you can erase it and write back on again. And these labels actually come in various like stick shapes, long shapes, all sorts of shapes really. So if you just want to do that and that's the inexpensive way of doing it, then that's absolutely fine. And here's one I've left out in the rain for a few days and it seems to have borne up, pretty well really, to be honest with you. So that seems to be okay. But if you want to do something that's perhaps a little bit more advanced, more interesting, this is the kind of label that can be produced. The question is what do you need to do it? And here's a little bit of video of it being created, if you like. So this is a laser engraver etcher type device, and you can buy these. They're not cheap, that's true, and you do need one that's reasonably, not very powerful, but say 5 watts or something like that, that definitely says it's capable of etching on slate. So you don't need the most powerful one, most surely. And this particular one as well, the way it works, it's kind of, the machine is static and actually the little laser moves back and forth. And for this kind of application, that makes it a lot easier to kind of set up, and it makes it a lot easier and faster to kind of do and finish the result really. So that was in real time. And of course, because they're double-sided, you've always got the option to use the back as well. So probably would have used a slightly different font to do that next time, but there we have the same laser. I've just turned it upside down, writing on the back of the slate. And as you can see, it's reasonably fast actually, which is sort of handy. See, I wouldn't be buying a more powerful version of this to make it even faster, because for these applications and this kind of technology, it works really well. And please remember, if you do any research on these, this is called the Laser Pecker 2, which was kind of absolutely adequate. Didn't want to spend any more money than that. It will do a host of other different things as well. I mean, you could just buy some slate coasters and put things on it. But because it's actually burnt and engraved this onto the surface of the slate, it really is pretty bomb-proof, really, I would say. So another thumbs up from me there, and perhaps you can give me one too. And you've got a nice sort of double-sided label, which I think for display purposes looks great. It overcomes lots of the disadvantages of using other forms of labels in that way. But also I've got the name of it on the front, I've got information on the back, and even that, if that's just the date you purchased it or something, if you wanted to, or you could leave it blank, it's entirely up to you. I just think it's quite a nice end product at the end of the day. It's going to cost money, absolutely. Not so much for the slates, I don't think. You can probably get them for about £1.50 or something like that, probably less if you bought them in big bulk. But I think the fact that it's going to last absolutely forever and look really nice is kind of well worth it. I mean, some of these trees people are paying, 30, 40, 50 more pounds for. Why not have a really nice medium to show them off and just to remember what they are really at the end of the day. The other option, of course, is just to put your own stuff on the back, what it likes, watering instructions, does it like sun, does it like shade, and kind of make your own version of it if you wanted to, just that really suits you. So for those that don't want to go the whole hog, you can of course buy the laser engraver and buy these really affordable wooden labels and just engrave onto the labels themselves. At least they're going to last a lot longer than handwriting them. I think the winner for the easy system is probably buy little labels like this, use a permanent marker and mark on there. That seems to last a decent amount of time really. So as I mentioned before, really another great alternative is to just buy the slate, and the pens like this come in with it. I have the most appalling handwriting, before anyone leaves anything in the comments, so I realise that. And anything that avoids that is good in my book. But yeah, and if you've got nice neat handwriting, or you just want a handwritten look, you get so many advantages of using these particular labels in your garden. Again, you're just paying for the labels, you can write on them, saves the price of the laser etcher, but could be an option. But given the fact of how versatile these things can be, the one at the bottom is actually made by the same laser engraver, because it can walk over a larger area of slate, believe it or not. So, you know, if you're looking for a bit of a hobby as well that you can use for other things, just an excellent purchase, I think.